Hey everyone, Liz Campbell here from Dynamic Intention with Be the Cake. And the subject we're talking about this week, quite apart from all the plugging I'm going to do, obviously, well, is flow. Okay, so there's all of these different kind of ideas around what constitutes flow and so on and so forth. And like, ultimately, there's an awful lot of discussion in the personal development world about flow and about what is flow, and like feminine flow and masculine flow and this flow and that flow and kind of whatever. Yeah, everyone's got their own kind of idea of what being in flow is. But what I'm going to say share with you, what I want to share with you today, the kind of like the big understanding, the big concept of flow is, in actual fact, flow isn't fucking possible if you're so up in your head that you're overthinking everything. Flow is a natural result of actually being grounded fully in your body, and B, letting go of trying to control outcomes of stuff and actually just allowing your own stream of energy to take you where it needs to go. Okay, now it could be that when you are doing all of your overthinking and all the rest of it, basically what's going on with that is you're not fully grounded into your body. Now, getting into your body, this is one of these subjects that, in actual fact, I could talk about for fucking days on end. It's to do with, there's a lot of different components to this, but essentially, if you're holding trauma, if you're holding a lot of lower vibrational energies in your cells, okay, and we're not talking about like thinking happy thoughts to make things go away and all of that kind of really basic bitch shit. When we're talking about flow, and when we're talking about lower vibrational energies and how they can snarl things up, and no doubt many of you will be aware of this particular kind of angle on this at the moment, because the fact is that everything going on in the world is stirring up, like anywhere where you're holding on to like heavier stuff, okay, it will be coming up and hitting you around the face. Anywhere where you are basically out of alignment with yourself and being reactionary to what's going on the outside, rather than actually in connection with what's inside and what's true, your core, you're going to find that basically it's difficult to get into your body. So you'll be feeling things like anxiety, is it the anxiety depression thing? There could be all sorts of stuff going on. Anger, like I would say, there's nothing wrong with anger per se, but when it comes up as frustration and it's not expressed and it's just like this nagging feeling in the background, essentially what's going on with that is like it's not being released, it's not being transmuted. We've been so taught to be afraid of our feelings, B, and that's me coughing actually, because I will share with you now, I'm integrating some stuff, and essentially if you have any kind of grief on your lungs as you go through transmutation and transformation on the inside, as in like as you're shifting old emotional states and so on and so forth, like you will do if you work with any of my digital products, you will always find at the end point of any integration, you'll feel stuff on your lungs, and that's to do with grief coming out, because your lungs are actually what holds grief inside of you. Okay, your lungs hold sadness, sorrow, grief, regret, remorse. These are the emotions that get trapped and sit on the lungs and in the cells and like around this whole area. Okay, so when you're doing work that shifts all of that, you will naturally cough. Okay, this does actually relate into things like COVID-19, coronavirus, whatever, and flus, and like any kind of chest infection as well. Basically, you will find that if you're someone who gets ill occasionally, but you don't very often, when you actually delve into the emotional states around whatever physical disease symptoms you're getting, if there's a cough, you will actually notice, if you actually pay enough attention to yourself and you have any kind of level of awareness of your own feelings, and if you don't, then really it's time you did start to actually fucking understand that it's good for you to actually start to listen to your body and recognize the way that you're feeling. So many people aren't present with themselves and don't know how they're feeling most of the time. When you don't know how you're feeling, it's very difficult for you to actually process emotionally, which means that a lot of stuff gets stuck and trapped, basically. And then that affects you vibrationally in a negative way, which means that you're not in your vortex most of the time, which means that basically life becomes a lot fucking harder than it has to be. Now, when you're ill, when you have disease going on of any sort, now it could be like like I just coughed basically because of the fact there's a bit of grief coming up. For me, this happens whenever I've got kind of a shifting out of one paradigm into a new one. And it's like that grief is like the death of the old and moving into like a new state of being, basically. And you grieve your old self as you do this. So I cough a couple of times. There have been times where I've literally woken up in the night after I've done lots of really big work and had so much grief sat on my lungs that I've ended up getting up and throwing up. And literally it's been like an energetic surge. It's like my body purging that. And then afterwards, everything's clear and I feel great. But like it's just been like this, like, holy shit, what? Like literally where your body like literally has so much to shift. There's a physical expulsion that goes on. Some of you may be familiar with this experience. I don't know. I'm just sharing where I've been with all of it. Essentially, like when you're holding on to a lot of stuff because you aren't adept at even recognizing how you're feeling about stuff, and like you have a habit of pushing stuff down rather than feeling it, rather than understanding it, rather than acknowledging it as you go along. And it could be that there's a lot of stuff from your childhood. This is why I talk about trauma a lot, the importance of understanding how trauma affects you, and how if it's not dealt with and fully alchemized properly, and when I'm talking about alchemized, I'm talking about cellular alchemy, not talking about just wafting around in an energy field. We're talking about actually getting down into the cells and doing it properly, which is what my work does. When you do it properly, essentially your vibration shifts up and up and up, and you get to be in the vortex more and more and more. And when you're in that space of being in the vortex, life flows. And you let go of overthinking, because actually as you shift all this shit out of your cells, energetically you can actually sink into and connect into and like unify with your body more, because your physical body is just like one part of a much bigger you, right? Now, the whole process of what people call ascension is actually a descension. What's happening is, like, in order to ascend, inverted commas, basically what's going on is you need to, like, there's a cellular clear out that needs to happen, which you need to actually actively instigate in order for it to take place, because it doesn't just do itself, okay? So that more of your core can sink into your body, and you can embody your core more, what I call your core, basically, which I've talked about before. It's frequencies, desires, core powers, and basically core superpowers, core genius powers, core values. It's consistent, and it's completely unique to you. Everyone has their own unique individual core. That gets to actually come into your body more and more and more, and you get to fully embody that, okay? And the stuff that's not you, all of the conditioning and so on and so forth, which is actually part of the shit you're carrying around that makes things feel heavy because it's not aligned with who you are. As that gets shifted out through doing the right work, basically, you can go more and more and more into a flow state where you automatically feel uplifted, happy, inspired. Things just fucking happen. Superflow is that state where you get into that state of superflow. And I know a lot of people talk about this, but if you're having to think your way into it, that's the fucking hard route in actual fact, because you'll be forever trying to think your way into it. If you're purely tackling it from a mental perspective, you will never be able to fully embody your core. Your core embodiment isn't about your fucking mental body and your brain. It's about your whole body, and it's about cellular alchemy, and it's about actually being able to bring more of you in so that you can be fully expressed and go into this state of flow, which is kind of what's going on with me now, where like blah, blah, the words are coming out of my mouth almost, without me having to think about it. And you go into this state of flow, and this is when all of the fucking good shit that wants to be expressed through you, that is you but is also not you, it's like your own higher consciousness coming through like a steam train almost when you really get into it. And it can be very high and very silly and very jokey and very fun and very flirty and very fluffy, or it can be like it can literally be like a fucking express train when it really kicks into gear, depending on what wants to come through. Okay, that basically, that's your sweet spot where time stands still, things get done. You don't even have to think about it. It doesn't feel like you're doing much because everything's just rushing through you like someone turned the faucet on full. Okay. And this comes into your relationship with money, your relationships with other people, so on and so forth. The more you're in flow, the more you learn to recognize what things feel like they're going to knock you out of that flow because they're not aligned for you. And you actually learn to just go around them rather than actually being distracted by them, right? This is the whole concept of flow. This is flow. Flow isn't about bubble baths and all the rest of it. Now, there may be elements of self-care that you need to do, basically. As I've said before, filling up your own cup is important, right? Super important. If you're feeling a little bit depleted, then you aren't any good to anyone. You're not any good to yourself. You're not any good to anyone else. And that's the time when you get to do whatever the fuck it is that you need to do for you to fill your cup up. Now, it might be that your way of filling your cup up is going for a fucking 10-mile run. It could be a bubble bath. It could be, I don't know, writing a list of all the things you've got to do around the house and actually doing all of that because it gives you a massive sense of achievement. Like, it's not for me to actually dictate to you like what your thing is that helps you to fill your cup up. It's not necessarily all fluffy. Sometimes it can be something that seems quite unusual to some people. But, it is that whole idea of replenishing for yourself by doing something that actually has value to you and you alone, that you're doing for yourself, for your own sake, not necessarily for anyone else, for the eyes of anyone else or anything. Okay. It could be that your self-care is working with one of my digital products. For example, I'm going to drop in here now whilst I'm talking about this. Reboot 10 is still currently only $50. At the end of the day tomorrow, that is coming out of my digital shop forever. Okay. I have also just launched The Shift and Deliberate Creation, 2 different things. They actually complement each other perfectly. If you were to work with the 2 of them together, you probably wouldn't ever need to work with anything else that I create ever again. Most likely. Unless I'm actually in the process of creating a really fucking epic course, which I will be announcing at some point. I'm writing a booklet to go. I say a booklet. I'm effectively writing a book to go with it. There's a course I'm going to be launching in the next couple of months or so. First I have to write the book, which is something I'm doing on a daily basis at the moment. And that's going to be training for energy practitioners. I will just drop this sneak preview. When it's finished, obviously I'll be announcing everything on here and all the rest of it and all my other social media channels. But effectively, your replenishment whether it's working with some really fucking awesome energy work, like the tools that I offer, or doing something else, doesn't matter. That replenishment, that is an important part of the whole thing. But like being in a state of flow isn't predicated on that. Being in a state of flow is actually all about being in your body properly and having nothing in the way of that. And when I'm talking about being in your body, I'm not talking about, you know, bringing in all your foibles and neuroses and all of the stuff that actually isn't you. You're not operating from that space at all. This is actually like bringing in your core, and your core being able to fully express, and you literally no part of you blocking it whatsoever. Doesn't matter what that part that could be blocking it might be, like nothing getting in the way. Now, actually, the shift is the piece of work that I've created that deals with this. Helps you to come into basically embody your core and be in the vortex more and more and more as you use it. It's designed in two ways. It's a course, and it's also a daily energy maintenance and management tool. Super powerful. I've been working with it. Can you tell? Basically, I'm like la 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 la. Yeah, essentially. So there's all of that. Then I will just drop in as well links below this video as per usual, or above or around. Just look for them somewhere. Comments in the drop down box underneath if it's on YouTube. If it's somewhere else, just look around. There will be links somewhere. You will be able to find them. You will see they will take you to the relevant pages, and you can muscle test yourself on the following statement. Actually, I can't look at it because it's on my phone. The statement that you can use is: working with this is in alignment with my soul print. Okay. The other one, working with this digital product, whatever it might be. You can do this with any kind of piece of work, actually. If you're looking at working with a particular coach or a mentor or whatever, you can muscle test on working with this person, working with this product, whatever it is in alignment with my soul print. Soul print? Where the fuck am I from? Is in alignment with my soul print, and is going to raise my vibration and deliver me the most fruitful and abundant outcomes. If you get a yes on that when you muscle test, you know exactly what to do. If you get a no, your muscle test on there is something better for me and I just can't see it yet. And if you get a yes on that one, then keep your awareness open and see what else pops up, and then test on it. Basically, it's so easy to use muscle testing if you're a little bit unclear about exactly kind of which directions you want to take with all sorts of things. It is so easy to use muscle testing to actually assist you in making the fucking right choices for you, the ones that are going to be the most helpful for your vibration in terms of raising it, the ones that are going to be the most enriching for your life, for your sense of internal abundance, external abundance, the rest, all the rest of it. You know, the bottom line is that when anyone's presenting something to you that is catching your attention, and the chances are if you're in front of it, there is something in it for you. But if you're not sure, if you're one of these people that's had lots of interesting experiences working with different people, or you're maybe a bit mistrusting, whatever, you can use muscle testing to get past all of your internal resistance and actually have the clarity on, like, this is for me, this is not for me. And if it's for you, fucking take the step and do it. And if it's not for you, then there's something else. It's really, really, really simple. I always say, you know, as practitioners, you know, for me as an energy alchemist, and with all the work that I do, it's not my job to persuade anyone to work with me. My job is to be me. Those who are coming towards me, who can see me with everything that I'm saying, will feel that pull and will feel that sense of wanting to work with me. But then it's like, it's down to you. Just fucking muscle test yourself and like, what's the What's the thing that's going to be best for you, basically? And I will also add in with this, because I have had some inquiries about one-to-one work online recently. Actually, it's not part of the remit for me at the moment to be offering one-to-one mentoring work online. When I am going to be offering it in the future, which it might go back on kind of as an available option at some point in the future, it is the most expensive option for working with me because of the amount of energy and time I put into it. I just want to explain some stuff. I put so much energy and so much time into my one-to-one work with clients online that it really limits my time to put into other things, and therefore I do charge accordingly. Okay. Now, I do get people who contact me who are like, I've got a low income and but I want to work with you one-to-one. And I will always direct you, when you do that, towards my digital stuff, towards my group program, the Ignition Point, which is a monthly subscription. It's a rolling thing where it's a way of, for me, it's a way to leverage my time so that people can have that contact with me that they're obviously after, if they're after something along, if someone's asking about one-to-one, I know that they're after the contact with me. But it's essentially really affordable for you, right? And I'm tackling some really fucking cool stuff in the Ignition Point at the moment. We're basically going into looking at all the Vortex work, and we're going into anchoring various different things. And yeah, there's a smorgasbord of delights in there. It's $100 a month at the moment. I may look at putting the price up on that soon, but right now I'm still feeling okay about it being $100 a month. We'll see as we go along. So, if that's something that appeals to you, jump on that now, basically, because once you're locked in with that $100 a month price, unless you drop out and stop doing it for a bit and then come back, you that's the price that you're paying. Once it goes up, basically. But for anyone who's already just paying $100 a month, it stays at $100 a month. So there are advantages to jumping on it sooner rather than later. Now, what I wanted to share is that basically I'm going to be focusing massively on doing group digital programs online because of the fact that I feel that they're most useful in order to have the kind of reach that I want my work to have. And I'm also going to be looking at offering group stuff in person, as in I don't like the word retreats, but group stuff in person and so on and so forth. So I'm getting a strong pull towards all of that at the moment. Obviously, with all the COVID issues that we've had, that hasn't been able to happen so far, but that's going to be kind of what I'm going to be looking at next. Okay. Essentially, yes, the digital stuff, my digital stuff, I love creating digital stuff because of the fact you get a tool that you can use that basically you can go back to highly, highly, highly powerful work, totally flexible, doesn't matter what time zone you're in. Some of my digital products, I create Facebook groups to go with, other ones I don't. It depends on what the subject matter is and whether I feel like there's a Facebook group that's needed for it or not. Okay. The Shift doesn't have a Facebook group. Deliberate Creation does, just simply because I do feel like it does need a Facebook group to go with it. What else was I going to say? Yeah, the Ignition Point, basically, I drip feed the stuff. I drip feed some of my other stuff into the Ignition Point bit by bit. So there is an advantage to joining that if you're kind of wanting to budget. The $100 a month thing basically will allow you to do that. And you obviously get the contact with me because I do live streams in there and so on and so forth. But yeah, the bottom line of all of this is, it doesn't matter what's going on in the world outside. I will come back to this thing, and I was saying this in the last video I made. If you are observing it, you are co-creating it, basically. it is incumbent upon all of us, and I include myself in this, and the amount of work I do on myself. Whenever I see anything that I'm looking at going, I'm not comfortable with this, like this doesn't feel good to me, I'm like there going, how am I contributing? How am I energetically contributing to this that I might not be aware of? How can I change that? Okay, it's that whole thing of actually having the awareness of how we contribute to and create timelines collectively, and how we can help to dissolve them, and so on and so forth. I mean, this is the stuff that I talk about in the ignition point too. It's so important to understand that if you want the things that you're experiencing in your life to change in any meaningful way, you have to actually make the decision to be the change. Now, you can either decide to do it by yourself, or you can decide you're going to get powerful help in the right kind of way with the right kind of person. Now, I might be that person. I might not be. Muscle test and all this shit, okay? But essentially, you're the one that's responsible for creating the shifts by making the right choices for yourself. Bottom line of everything in everyone's lives, okay? When you make the right choices for yourselves, when you make the choice to work with the right person, when you make the choice to do the thing that's most aligned to like create the thing, whatever the fuck it is, you know, when you make choices that are in integrity with where you say you want to go, you will get to that end point of where you want to go. Be it taking a long time or a short time, depending on how good you are at making those fucking decisions. And I'm snapping my fingers here because, you know, it is about like, get the clarity on what's right for you and then take the step, not rocket science. It could be doing one of my courses. It could be, I don't know, going to Australia and walking up Uluru. It could be anything. It could literally be anything. But when you have the clarity on what the thing is, do the fucking thing. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is flow in a nutshell. Right. Having said all of that, I'm going to love and leave you all. Check all the links below, above, around the sides of this video. Until next time, I will say to you all now, I love you lots and have a fantastic week. Mwah! Bye for now.